Well, we're going to go to the other battles that happened in Boston. Now, we already had the Lexington-Concord battle that happened. That was right around Boston area. And we also talked about Ticonderoga, which it's not really close to Boston, but they brought the cannons down to Boston, and that's going to play into our story here. But let's talk a little bit more about what happened to Boston. One battle happened before the Declaration of Independence, and then the other one, not really a battle of sorts, but the other thing happened after the Declaration of Independence. So let's get started. I have a surprise for you. First of all, filming in a new place. I just thought you'd like to know there's this beautiful drawing here from my 5-year-old daughter. Thought you'd think that was pretty cool, so it's there for you to enjoy. Just if my face gets boring, just go ahead and look at it. But I also have a map of Boston. This is a map of Boston from that time period. So let's talk a little bit about how this worked. Here's main Boston area right here. You can see where all the towns are, all the cities. Now, this is all the water. Great place to come in a harbor. Great place for trade. No wonder Boston prospered as much as it did. Two main places that overlook the harbor. Over here we have Bunker Hill in that area. And then we also have Dorchester Heights over here. Now, let's talk about how these played into the Revolution. The first thing was in June of 1775, the British decided that they had all their ships in here, and all of their armies were occupying Boston because of the Intolerable Acts. They were enforcing all the rules. So they had lots of troops and lots of boats in here, but they decided they wanted to make a stronghold up here in the Bunker Hill area. Bunker Hill's actually up here, but they wanted to make a stronghold here because it's a great place to kind of overlook and protect their boats and to really kind of control the area. So they decided they were going to make an attack and kind of take this over. Well, the colonists heard about it, so they brought lots of troops in. And they actually brought about 1,200 troops in to try to protect the area from the British taking it. Now, this was the Battle of Bunker Hill. It didn't actually take place on Bunker Hill, but close to it. This is where the British finally won this battle and actually took that hill and were able to control it. But the American troops made a great showing. They were very disciplined and waiting for the people to come up the hill, and they fired, and the British lost lots of troops in the battle. And the Americans didn't suffer very many. The Americans finally gave up and surrendered it, but the British took a lot of casualties. And so that was kind of one time when the British, even though they won, it showed the Americans, the colonists, that they could stand up to the British and actually fight hard, which was good for them to kind of have it wasn't a real triumph or a real win, but kind of a psychological win. They were able to stand strong, shoot down a lot of the British people there. Now later, in March of 1776, let me tell you what had happened here. The Second Continental Congress had sent George Washington up there to be the general of the army. They decided that George Washington was our man, so they sent him up here. They made the right choice, by the way. They sent him up there, and so George Washington was sitting out all winter, wondering what to do. It was kind of quiet. And the British people were there kind of quiet, and the two sides were just kind of quietly getting ready. Well, the cannons that we talked about from Ticonderoga get down here, and George Washington has a plan. He decides he wants to take Boston and keep it. So what they do is they get all the men together and they practice building forts. Not up here on Bunker Hill, but down here on Dorchester Heights. They figure they can climb up here to these kind of mountains overlooking the water. They could build fortifications up there, and they would have the stronghold to go in and kind of, they could shoot down any of the boats. If they get their cannons up there, they could shoot down any boat in the harbor. So they figure that's a very good strategic area to conquer. So what they do is they actually get all the things to make forts and the cannons ready, and they practice this, and they actually go up in one night. This was in March of 1776. So if you do the math, March, April, May, June, July. This is about 5 months before the Declaration of Independence is signed. They decide that they want to go in and take it, and they go up there, and in one night they build these fortifications up on the hillside. And it was complete surprise to the British. So they get up there build these, and the next morning you can see that all the cannons are ready to go down and fire on the people on the boats. They could shoot down any boat. They've got a great strategic location. So the British people decide, well, we've got to stop this. We've got to take over. We've got to get this land back. We can't have them sitting up there, with all of our boats in the harbor that they could shoot. So they actually make plans to go over and take out Dorchester Heights, to attack them and take out their forts. But this great snowstorm comes in and stops them from doing it in March. So they're unable to get over there and stop this from happening. So when after that's over, the British decide, well, we're just going to leave. We've had enough of this. Boston's not that strategic of a place anyway. We're going to let them have Boston. They've got this strategic location where they can shoot down our boats. And guess what? The Boston's given back to the colonists. The British ships leave the harbor, and George Washington is left in control of Boston because of their kind of smart plan to take Dorchester Heights. Now, George Washington's smart, and he knows that the British people aren't going away. They're going to come back. He guesses correctly. He figures out that they're going to head to New York. So Washington takes the people down to New York to start to protect New York. And even though they were very successful and the colonists knew that they had taken Boston, that's a big triumph, kind of a good thing to rally behind. But they knew that the big parts of the battle and the big part of the war was just ahead of them. This was kind of a lucky thing that they were able to take Boston. But New York was going to be a whole different story. We'll get to the New York thing coming up.